little learners. Today we're going to be looking at accents in phonics. Phonics. Okay, so I don't claim to be an expert at accents, but when it comes to phonics, I do have to think about how accents can affect the way that children learn different sounds and how they pronounce different words, and then I have to try and replicate that in some cases. There are so many accents across the UK, and then more in other English-speaking countries, and then you factor in accents for people whose first language isn't English, so they're bringing the accent they have in their mother tongue into English. So we have so many different variations of accents and dialects, and so that really does affect the way that we pronounce words and the way that we learn how to speak and read. Don't forget to give this video a like if you enjoy hearing different accents, or if you're proud of your own accent, which you absolutely should be, and don't forget to click the subscribe button so you don't miss a future video. So first of all, we know that accents change the way that a word sounds. Sometimes if you are from a particular area, you go somewhere else, you're speaking the same language, you're still speaking English, but you find it difficult to understand what the other person is saying because of their accent. Now, my accent is a very typical Southern England accent. I grew up just outside of London, and so that is kind of where my accent comes from, but there are so many different ones. Sometimes we have words that are decodable, which means that we can sound them out, even if they sound completely different in two different accents. So for example, the word farm, in my accent, I pronounce that R sound, the A and the R, farm, because I don't really use the rhotic R in my accent. But there are some accents in the English language that do use that rhotic R, such as in the West Country. So there, the R sound sounds instead like R. We're using that rhotic R there, which I don't use in my accent. So you have kind of farm versus farm. So you've got that R there, farm. This is similar to when you hear some American accents. So when I am teaching my American students, I am using farm, park, things like that, so that they are learning the right sound for the accent that they use in the country that they're in, because my American students are still living in America. Sometimes accents change whether or not a word is decodable. So with those examples we just saw, we have f, r, farm, or f, r, farm. Those are still decodable, you're just pronouncing the AR, the R sound differently. However, some accents change whether or not a word is decodable. So for example, in my accent, this word, bath, the A is making the R sound in that word, bath. So I can't actually sound out that word using phonics because it doesn't work. However, in a more northern accent, maybe someone from Yorkshire, this can be decoded because the A in the word bath makes an A sound instead of the R sound that I make. So b-a-f, bath. They pronounce the word bath, and so it can be phonetically decoded. And there are actually a lot of words where when you have an accent from more northern England become decodable. And so in a way, maybe phonics is a bit easier the further north you go. Keeping up with the kind of southern-northern divide going on there with accents, and this is obviously very general because there are so many accents within those regions, but we have other words such as one, grass, grass, task, task, husk, husk, cup, cup, castle, castle, love, love, flood, flood, luck, look, glass, glass. So of course here we're being very general when we're talking about southern and northern accents, and as I said, there are so many different ones all over the UK, but that gives you a bit of an idea of how accents can really change the way a word sounds and also whether or not you can sound it out, and how you might sound it out. Now, this should go without saying, but when teaching children phonics, we should not encourage them to change their accent. So if their accent is different to the area that they live in, or most of the children in the class, or even to the teachers, we should not encourage them to change it. As long as they are pronouncing sounds consistently within their own accent, then we certainly shouldn't encourage them to change the way they're saying it. And actually, it's really great for children to hear a wide variety of accents and to learn that certain sounds are different with different accents. So, for example, if you were teaching a class and you had a child in your class who had a different accent, or another member of staff maybe who had a different accent that pronounced words differently, it would be great to showcase that in your classroom so that children can observe that other people speak differently, and also we can still understand what we're saying. We're all speaking the same language, it just might sound a little different. Now, Twinkle Digest found that 53 to 61.7% of their followers on social media felt they needed to change their accent, and this was for a variety of reasons. Sometimes it was so that they could match the children's accent if they were not from the same area that they were teaching in. Sometimes it was because of prejudice and worrying about parents not liking the teacher's accent, which is really sad. Twinkle Digest noticed that teachers who didn't feel they needed to change their accent were usually teaching in an area or a region that they grew up in, so their accent matched those of the children's, and the teachers who were changing their accents were teaching in an area that they weren't from. And one of the most common sounds that teachers felt they needed to change was the yaw sound, so U-R-E. In my accent, that sounds like yaw, so in the word pure. However, in some other accents, such as some Irish accents, some American accents, this might sound more like your, like pure. So you've got that your and your. So they're very different, and teachers were feeling that they needed to change that. Teachers found that the sounds that were the trickiest when it came to accents were vowel sounds, so we talked about bath and bath, but also the th and v sounds, the sound, the k sound. These can vary between different accents, and so those were found quite tricky by teachers as well. And Phase 5 phonics, where we introduce lots of alternative pronunciations for spellings that children already know, or alternative spellings for sounds that they already know, was also a big issue, because this is where we find a lot of the differences in accents. Let's next look at the ear sound, E-A-R. In my accent, that is ear. However, for some reason, I also pronounce it ear sometimes, and that is the case for lots of other accents in the UK. They may only pronounce it ear. I'm not sure why I pronounce it both ways, but typically in my accent it would be ear. So if we look at some words that have this sound in, here could also sound like here. We also have words that aren't spelt E-A-R but have the ear sound in them, like cheer, could also sound like cheer. Severe may also sound like severe. Career can also sound like career. Let's look at the or sound. So if we have words spelt with the O-R, in my accent that is the or sound, but in other accents it might sound more like or, with that rhotic R there that we were talking about earlier with the A-R-R sound in farm. So we might have the word for in my accent, but it might sound like for in another accent. You might also have words that have the or sound that might be spelt differently, O-U-R, and they could sound different. For example, the word tour in my accent, tour, but in another accent might sound more like tour. We also have words with the A-U-G-H, so words like court in my accent might sound like cot or cart in a different accent. We have the word daughter in my accent, but this could also sound like doctor or daughter. So hopefully that gives you a bit of an overview of accents and how they can impact phonics teaching and learning. Let me know in the comments below if you've ever come across any difficulties with teaching phonics and considering accents, or if you want to share something about your accent, I'd love to learn. Please know that I am not trying to offend anyone with the accents that I have done in this video, and I didn't specifically name where each of them were from on purpose. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, it really helps out the channel. Don't forget you can subscribe if you haven't already, and you can also join to become a member and get some interesting backstage stuff. So you can click the join button down below to take a look at that. You can also sign up to the Little Learners newsletter by clicking the link in the description box down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.